is Friday, September 15th, and this is a Fox News alert. Breaking right now, reports of a rush hour explosion inside a London subway station. We're live with the very latest breaking right now.
And tensions reaching near nuclear levels as North Korea launches a second missile over Japan. Guam and U.S. allies now officially in the crosshairs, responding with military might of their own.
Ultimately, we have to have the wall. If we don't have the wall, we're doing nothing. Then we will become the obstruction.
Border wall or bust. President Trump taking a page out of the Democrats' book, saying that there's no deal on DACA until we're ready to make America safe again. Fox and Friends First starts right now.
And let's get right to that Fox News alert. Complete chaos in London after an apparent explosion rocks a subway station during rush hour. And that missile traveling more than 2,300 miles before landing in the Pacific. The show of force proving Guam is within striking distance of the rogue regime.
Senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palkot joins us now live from Seoul, South Korea, with the latest on this developing story. Good morning, Greg.
Heather, Jackie, hello. Another provocation that we are seeing from North Korea. It happened Friday time here in South Korea, over in the north, over to the east of the north. We first saw this intermediate range missile back in April when we were in Pyongyang looking at a military parade. Since then, there have been 3 successful tests of this missile, and this is the most successful. As you noted, it went about 2,300 miles. That is longer than the last time they used this successfully, just about 3 weeks ago in August. It is, in fact, the longest ever in distance horizontally that they have shot a missile, a ballistic missile, North Korea. Highly alarming. And again, yes, if it was aimed at Guam, it could have hit Guam. South Korea authorities had been monitoring this very closely, and literally 6 minutes after the North Korean blast, they shot off their own missiles. 2 of them from an eastern coast location just went into the sea, but crucially, these missiles went the exact distance it would need if it was pointed towards North Korea to knock out this launch site. Now, while U.S. authorities say that American interests were not threatened, certainly there was a lot of scared people in Japan. This missile flew over Hokkaido. That's the northernmost island in the archipelago there. Awakened millions. There was loudspeakers, warnings saying to go into the shelter. Basically, they're used to this. This is the second time in about 3 weeks that this has happened, but still, Japanese Prime Minister Abe described this move as reckless, and he's calling for today a UN Security Council emergency session. Finally, the actions of the Kim Jong-un regime, branded in a statement coming from Secretary of State Tillerson, who has been very active on this, as provocative, as threatening. While we have been seeing activity of various forms coming from North Korea, remember, this is the first offensive activity, either missile or any kind of action since the UN Security Council resolutions on Monday, and since the nuclear device test that started all this latest attention 2 weeks ago. Back to you guys.
All right, Greg Palkot, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as North Korea continues to ramp up tensions in the Pacific, what should the Trump administration's next move be?
Here to discuss is Hudson Institute fellow and national security expert Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, thank you as always for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So this latest test that we're hearing about, we've heard that the missile reached a height of 480 miles and it flew 2,300 miles out. That's further than the North's missile that was launched back in August. So what does that tell you in terms of the progress that they're making and how they're able to do it?
Well, the North Koreans are determined to obtain a credible ballistic missile capability that they can marry with a nuclear warhead, so that they can actually pose a serious, believable threat to the United States, to Guam, to Japan, to South Korea. And so with this latest test, of course, it's the second one recently that flew over Japan. It's highly provocative because, of course, if there's airliners in the airspace there, if the missile breaks up in the air, it could land on Japanese citizens, of course, below. We have American forces deployed there. So it's highly provocative. And they're doing this while also threatening, very intense verbal threats at the United States, at Guam, at Japan. So it's very, very serious. The Trump administration has said that their pressure campaign was at a 5 5 or a 6 on a dial a couple of months ago. Clearly, they've turned that up, and you got to expect that they're going to be doing more here in the incoming days and weeks.
President Trump said after the 6th nuclear test about a week ago that North Korea better not make any more threats, and if they do, fire and fury like the world has never seen before will be headed toward North Korea. What is our next move? He has remained silent, which I think speaks volumes right now.
It does. The president's been very quiet because, there's only so much you need to have political maneuverability in these very tense crisis situations. And so the president has to be very careful at this point about what he says because of the rhetoric coming out of North Korea, because of these highly provocative tests. Clearly, Secretary of Defense Mattis has stated that the United States will not allow the United States directly to be threatened. We will not allow U.S. territory Guam to be threatened. We do have missile defense assets deployed there here at home and at Guam to intercept a missile if it is headed towards the United States. But again, those missile defense systems are not 100%. They suffered severe cuts under the Obama administration, and so we are behind. We're not where we should be. We need to invest in those systems. But again, we have to have a credible threat of force against North Korea. Should they believe that they can continue to threaten the United States and our allies this way, what the Trump administration needs to be clear about is we cannot allow them to coerce and threaten us with a credible nuclear ballistic missile capability. So we cannot allow them to continue these tests because they're only going to get better.
Rebecca, we keep talking about and we keep hearing about the significance of China in all of this and the development of the nuclear weapons in North Korea. But I want to talk about Iran and the Iran deal. Speaking of things that happened during the Obama administration directly impacting what is going on now with North Korea.
Well, yeah, the Iranians continue, they've got a ballistic missile program that was not covered under the Iran deal. The Obama administration was unable to get the Iranians to agree to rein in its missile program, so they simply dropped it. They just didn't include it in the deal. And you need to have ballistic missiles in order to marry with a nuclear weapon to have a deliverable capability. So even if the Iranians don't continue their nuclear program right now, which of course there is evidence that they are cheating, but even if they don't, if they continue their missile program, then they can marry those capabilities together and have a credible nuclear missile capability to threaten the United States. And again, the Iranians are watching the North Koreans. The Iranians cooperate with the North Koreans. They get a lot of their technology from the North Koreans, and they're watching to see how the United States handles North Korea, because if we're not going to get serious, if we are going to simply just continue threats without actually taking action against North Korea, the Iranians can see that maybe they can get away with that too. So the world is watching, and again, our alliances are incredibly critical right here too. The United States has to demonstrate an ironclad commitment to both Japan and South Korea, and our Israeli allies are certainly watching too, to see how we handle Iran and the Iran deal. So these things they're not just two separate issues. They kind of really go together, and this is the complication of diplomacy right now with the Trump administration.
Rebecca, while we have you, I want to ask you about this rush hour explosion that we're hearing about in a subway system in London. What do you know about that?
Well, we don't know if it's a terrorist attack, of course, but the evidence certainly leads many people to believe that it certainly could be. I mean, it's following the pattern of terrorist attacks in the UK. This explosion happened on transportation, so it's really creating terror among the British people. And again, there's this report that came out that the UK has something like 28,000 individuals that they're watching that could be related to Islamist radical organizations in the UK alone. So they really have their hands full. Of course, these are homegrown terrorists. These are individuals that fought alongside ISIS abroad and have come back to the UK. So there certainly is a lot of individuals that do pose a threat to British citizens, and you can understand why they would be very concerned this morning.
Yeah, and on high alert, 4 attacks this year alone, 36 people killed in those attacks so far, so they certainly don't need another one. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Appreciate your insight as always.
Good to be here.
Well, in other news, no wall, no deal. You've heard this. President Trump clearing the air on his DACA deal with the Democrats, releasing his own agenda timeline.
Despite confusion from the Democrats, the president is standing by his promise to build a big, beautiful wall.
Doug Luzader is live for us in Washington, D.C. with the latest on this developing story. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. Well, the president says this is all about border security and that he will get his long-promised border wall eventually. But for now, at least, he is talking about extending President Obama's so-called DACA program that offers protections to illegal immigrants who came here as children.
DACA now and the wall very soon. But the wall will happen. We're working on a deal for DACA, but a lot has to do with the amount of security. We want very heavy security at the border. We want certain things at the border.
Democrats, though, going a step further, saying that the president not only agreed to getting DACA through Congress, he also committed to citizenship for those illegal immigrants eventually. It's something many Trump supporters will see as amnesty.
It was interpreted by some that we had a deal on the bill, but that wasn't on the package. That wasn't the case. We had an agreement to move forward, in our view, with the DREAM Act as the basis for how we protect the dreamers. So I trust the president in that regard.
You know, the White House has disputed this, though, and congressional Republican leaders say any kind of a deal will have to include enhanced border security.
So we need border security and enforcement as part of any agreement. I think that's something the Democrats are beginning to understand.
Well, and Ryan would go on to say that as far as the president meeting with Democrats, that these were discussions, not negotiations. Jackie and Heather.
Doug Luzader, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
The time is now 13 after the hour. The birthplace of the free speech movement put on lockdown as the snowflakes show up in full force to silence a conservative speaker.
And a celebrity chef, internet sick, saying that he would poison the president's food.
It's about 17 after the hour. Turns out free speech isn't free. UC Berkeley shelling out hundreds of thousands of dollars to protect the campus with police and even a concrete barrier during conservative writer Ben Shapiro's speech to students.
Yeah, but that didn't stop hundreds of protesters from showing up. Robert Gray is live for us in Los Angeles with more. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Heather and Jackie. That's right. Hundreds of law enforcement officers in riot gear were also out in force Thursday evening on the UC Berkeley campus, showing a readiness to control the crowds before, during, and after Shapiro's speech. Now, the police cordoned off parts of campus with a closed perimeter. The show of force meant to prevent more violence between far left and far right agitators. Just this year, the city has been the scene of 4 political demonstrations turned violent. Police packing pepper spray for the first time in 2 decades after the Berkeley City Council this week modified a ban against the spray. The price tag for all these security forces, $600,000. Now, the high cost of security led Shapiro to tweet that free speech isn't free and blaming far-left Antifa for the tab. All right, well, Shapiro was invited by UC Berkeley's campus Republicans who say conservative speakers are stifled there. Students who do want to hear their differing views, he says, want to be told they can only hear one view and don't believe the First Amendment should die. That was what Shapiro was saying. Now, 9 people have been reported arrested. At least 4 people were arrested for carrying banned weapons. 1 was also held on suspicion of battery on a police officer. Hundreds of law enforcement officers, many in riot gear, prepared for the violence and seized potential weapons, guys. Sending it back to you in the studio.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert Gray.
Thanks, Robert. Well, Harvard Me Time is rescinding Chelsea Manning's visiting fellow a mistake after some major backlash for hiring one of the biggest government leakers of all time.
Heather, it comes hours after former acting CIA director Michael Morrell, that has resigned from his post at the prestigious university over the move. And current CIA director Mike Pompeo pulling out of speaking engagement, calling Manning a, quote, American traitor.
Well, despite withdrawing the designation, the school is still inviting the convicted leaker to give a speech on campus. We'll see how that plays out.
All right, it's about 20 minutes after the hour on this Friday morning. That cool new iPhone 10 you've been waiting to get your hands on could put you at risk for hackers. Kurt, the cyber guy, is here to break down the major new security concerns you need to know.
USA, that's, we're all the same. We're all American. Doesn't matter, what your skin tone is or where you're from.
Well, the iPhone 10's hottest new feature is now its most controversial, bringing some brand new security concerns to light. So how safe is Apple's Face ID to actually use? Let's ask the cyber guy, Kurt Knudsen. he always has. Thank you so much for joining us.
Heather,
You're
good to see
back. You were at the unveiling. How exciting was that?
I got to tell you, the architecture alone at Apple's new campus called Apple Park is worth a visit with your family. Apple's opening it up so you could, it's like the next theme park I want to go. This is something, it's a sight to see.
So speaking of a sight to see, looking at your face, so tell us about this technology. Is it safe? What do we need to know?
We've all heard the big around the new, everybody that's have on it is to be able to pick up your phone, and instead of putting in a code or using Touch ID, it's Face ID. So it would recognize me actively looking into the phone, and then it puts 30,000 different infrared little dots on my face instantly and unlocks the phone if indeed it's me.
Yeah.
Hackers are already, before the phone's even coming out, trying to crack into this.
So how are they what are they trying?
Well, they are already starting to print 3D images of themselves to try to fool this. So now with 3D printers, you're able to you print is essentially a pretty lifelike image of yourself in 3D. Right. So even though at the event in Apple, it was Phil Schiller, one of the leaders at Apple, on the stage saying, we hired Hollywood's very best special effects artists, and here's an image of all the masks that we said can't even fool this new technology. Well, hackers that already hacked into the Touch ID that we use our finger to unlock the phone were successful with that. They think they're going to be able to do it now with a new iPhone 10 that's coming out. So it's a little wait and see game, but it's entirely possible.
Yeah, that's amazing that they use that to, you know, they should use that, what do you call it, knowledge for something good, because it is amazing that they could be able to do that.
And the bad thing with that is that if this is true, and if indeed they're able to crack it, that means they have access to my banks, my wallet, all my credit cards, anything I have associated with Apple Pay, and anything inside of my phone. And more of our essential life is inside of that. So I've got my eye on this one, but I think they may have invented what could be the best security layer in our lives.
Yeah, and expect to see it on other devices as a result?
Expect to see this to grow. Oh, yeah. You're going to see this on all phones moving. The Apple's competitors are probably a good couple years behind them at this point.
No longer just for Tom Cruise in action movies.
You're right. You're absolutely correct.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. As always, good to see you.